Driving impaired is always a bad move, so don't be a statistic. Think of the heartbroken loved ones you'll leave behind, or the innocent bystanders you could hurt, or worse. If you're buzzed, drunk, or high, have a plan. And together we can make the roads a safer place.
Welcome in, folks. We're celebrating 70 years of racing history at the Land of Legends Raceway in 2023. This is our first one-on-one interview of the season, and it's with none other than race car driver, race car builder, crew chief. We're going to talk about it all here with Johnny Birosh here on Land of Legends TV. Johnny, thanks for having me out to the shop here. There's been a good bit of racing history, I'm sure, between here and Waterloo.
Here in Seneca Falls and Waterloo, yeah.
What got you into racing to begin with? What was it that gave you the bug?
Well, I only lived about 3 miles from Maple Grove Speedway in Waterloo, and used to ride my bike down there. And when I was about 10 years old, watch the races.
Who were you rooting for back then?
Oh, Cliff Coteri, Willie Allen,
okay.
Johnny Gunkler. Let's see. I can't think of some of the other guys right now. But anyways, yeah, I used to ride my bike about 3 miles and then ride it back home after the races. So I don't think that'd be going on today.
What got you behind the wheel?
Well, I was a little crazy on the street, and so I needed to do something.
Kind of let that out a little bit.
Yeah, I needed to not drive like that on the street. So,
what was your first race car?
First race car was well, let's see. I don't know. I guess it was Walt Mitchell. I used to help Walt, and he gave me this '59 Ford, and of course Walt had a junkyard, and he had this '59 Ford that was a race car, and so he said, you know, you can have that, you can run that car if you want to race, you know. And I said, okay. So I went out in the junkyard and got a motor and stuff like that, and then the next car was Weldon Lawrence. He built a '49 Ford with flathead. Okay. And I think it went that way. It could have been the other way around. I could have drove the '49 Ford first. I can't really remember. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, and Weldon was my neighbor. I lived across the street from him.
Okay.
And I was just around people that like cars, you know. And then once I started going to the races, that was it. I got, you know, did a little drag racing when I first started, but once I started oval track racing, that was it.
That was it.
I knew that's what I was going to do.
How long a period of time from when you started racing? Because, you know, I think, you know, not only behind the wheel, but, you know, fabricating what was the difference? Like, did you race for quite a while before you decided to get into fabbing and all that good stuff?
No, actually, I was building some cars. I built a couple cars for Walt Mitchell. I was probably like 16, a couple of late models that he had.
Okay.
And so I was doing that stuff. I was interested in that.
Yeah.
Anyways, I was a mechanic. You know, that's what I did. You know, I worked in car dealerships and stuff like that to make a living. And but then, you know, once I started racing, I don't know. I probably wasn't fair to either career. I didn't put all my eggs into racing, you know, or all into building cars. I did them both.
Okay.
You know, stretched myself out pretty thin.
Had fun.
Didn't sleep much.
Had fun doing it though.
Had a great. I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
Yeah.
You know, it was a great experience. I mean, it was just a lot of fun, all of it. And it's all about the people you meet and everything. Yeah. You know, it's just people. Yeah. That's what it is. That's what racing is.
Fortunately, I feel like it's still that way today, you know.
I think so.
That's like racing has changed, the cars have changed, the sport has changed, but that is the one constant is people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. What is it about building a chassis, doing fab work? What is it what's your favorite part of that? Or
Well, I don't know. It's all fun. I mean, it's the results that you're looking for. You know, and I always liked helping people, and it was really, you know, one thing was really good for me was when they started the sportsman class, because I mean, Troyer and Bud Olson and stuff and Tobias, they were really big back when I started building cars, and I didn't have the facilities and stuff like they did. I could build about 10, 15 cars a year.
Okay.
And but when they started racing sportsman cars, I really liked helping them guys.
Yeah.
You know, helping them get started. In other words, a lot of them never raced anything.
Right.
You know, and or maybe a go-kart or something. And once they got into a full-size car, it was like they were like, wow, what do I do now? You know?
Right.
And it was really fun to help them.
When that class started, and for new fans that are watching, you know, in the last couple of years, when that class started, you couldn't come out with a brand new piece. That class was designed to take
the used cars.
Take a used car, and like not a hand-me-down, but kind of, you know, in a way.
Yeah, a lot of them were, you know, 2 or 3, you know, years old. Well, Gary Tompkins, when he started, he raced a modified that was my own car, because Gary used to help me out at the shop, building bodies and stuff. And that car was, I don't know what year Gary started, but that car was an '84 car. And Gary went on, you know, and had Chrysler in it. And he went on and won, like, I don't know, 50 races in the sportsman division with that car. He's real successful.
Yeah.
Chuck Bauer, he bought a used car from, let's see, I think it was a Tobias car. And then he got a car that was a used car from somebody that, you know, had one of our cars. And I helped Chuck out a lot to start with. And he bought cars from me all the way through till I quit building them. You know, and he won championships and everything.
There had to be a big sense of pride to see, you know, you mentioned, you know, the love of fabrication, seeing that finished product. I can't imagine what it was like, though, taking that next step, seeing something that you put together and seeing guys having success with it, because the Birosh cars had a lot of success in the day.
Yeah, that was a big part of it. I mean, that's what you want to do. You want to, you know, you want to build a good product, and you want to give somebody a fair chance, you know, and I felt we did that, you know, with our stuff. I mean, we really tried hard. Like I say, all I did was work. I talked to all the guys that I used to build cars for and work with. I'm real good friends with Lynn Huff, built cars for Lynn, and we talk about it all the time. We just don't even know how we did it. You know, we worked all day, or 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and then we worked on our race cars.
Right.
And then we got a little bit of sleep.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No.
Mark Osterhout, you know, Walt Mitchell. I built pretty much all Walt's cars until I quit building them.
Yeah.
And then he was driving for Shifty, or, you know, for Harold Sherwood there. And I built, you know, I think pretty much all the cars that they ran, you know. And Walt, you know, won over 200 races in his career. So.
Oh, yeah. You know, I won't say the secret sauce, but what made a Birosh car, and this was something I learned recently, was chromoly tubing. Tell me about that, why, and what it did.
Well, I knew from my cousin's Lee Osborne.
Okay.
Lee built sprint cars, and I talked to Lee a lot, and I knew, you know, all the sprint cars were chromoly. And the reason they're chromoly is they're, you know, you could build a lighter car because you can build it out of thinner material and still be stronger than the mild steel car.
Okay.
It's a little harder to build. It's harder to weld. It's not harder to weld. It just takes more time.
Okay.
Mild steel cars are typically just welded real quick, but the chromoly cars, there's a process you got to go through to weld it, and you know, you don't want to have any problems You know, you don't want to build something that's going to break or whatever. And so, but it makes a better car, I think, when you get done. And I think it allows, when it's a lot of slick dirt tracks around here, allowed you to build a car without a lot of bracing in it. And chromoly has a memory, and it could flex, and it would go back. Okay. And so I think you made the car lighter, and I think it was, you know, a better mix for, you know, for the slick dirt tracks.
When you say, you know, it had good memory, is that, you know, I'm trying to, you know, comparison for new fans, like a rubber band, like you know,
it can flex, and it'll go right back where it was.
Okay.
Okay, where mild steel, it'll flex and it goes back, and after it starts working a while, it starts staying.
Okay.
And that's where you see guys, you know, nowadays with the mild steel cars, I think they'll run them for a while, and then they just want a new one.
Yeah.
And they'll get a new one because it's better. You know, it's got more memory to it.
Okay.
And now the way they're building them today, they found other ways, you know, where they got these rubber floors and stuff like that. And I think they're getting a lot of movement that way, and so the frame ends up lasting a longer period of time, you know, being mild steel.
Yeah.
Another guy that built all his cars off chromoly was Howard Conkey.
Okay.
You know, all his cars were chromoly back.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Because all the super modifieds were chromoly. And Howard really was into the super modifieds.
Okay.
You know, and so.
If I remember, Siprich drove for him.
Siprich, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Siprich drove all the cars. I mean, the dirt cars.
Yeah.
You know, Old Yeller, and you know, that was Howard's. You know, that was Howard's creation.
Yeah.
And yeah, old Chuck.
Got a win.
Miss him.
Yeah.
Miss him.
Yeah. Just lost Chuck this week.
Yeah.
This past week. You got a modified win at Canandaigua.
Yeah.
We switched to sprint cars. Walk me through the switch to the sprint car.
Sprint cars, the reason we did it was we couldn't put the effort to the modifieds that we needed to. At least I couldn't. I was trying to build cars.
Yeah.
And it wasn't enough hours in a day. The sprint car lend us to having an operation where they run like 20-some races a year, 21, 22, and we could be ready all the time. It made a big difference on our performance and just being able to have fresh stuff. You know, I remember one year with the modified, we ran, I don't know, it was over 80 races, and we did it with one motor.
Wow.
And I remember we'd race Weedsport on Sunday night. We'd come back to the shop, I'd pull the motor out, head to Danbury, stay for a couple days, rebuild it, bring it back home, and that was our engine.
Yeah.
That was where we ran. Okay. And with the sprint car, we could put a new engine in there and run it all year.
Wow.
You know, and
big difference.
Yeah, big difference.
Yeah.
So it had quite a bit of success with the sprint car.
Yeah.
Really, you know, and in all fairness, I mean, I did have a lot of experience, and not racing a sprint car, but racing, period.
Right.
And so I understood a lot about the car and everything. Yeah. And then I built quite a few sprint cars for quite a few guys too.
Yeah.
Mel Lane.
Yeah.
I built all his cars except the first one. My cousin Lee Osborne there built the first one, and then he closed up, and that's when I started building the sprint cars, and I built all Mel's cars after that.
Wow.
So.
Okay.
And
so you go into the ESS Hall of Fame. What did that mean to you?
Oh, incredible.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
I mean, even chokes me up a little.
Yeah.
Because it's important.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, to be recognized.
Yeah. And for you, I'm sure at that point when that happens, that's a big deal, because at the time that you're building cars, winning races, doing all that, like you said, you guys were so busy. Was it hard to kind of take in all that was happening at the time?
Yes.
You know?
In fact, like when we raced the sprint cars, we never stuck around much, you know, after the race was over. I mean, we felt bad because people would want us to stick around and talk to the fans and stuff. But to be honest with you, I mean, a lot of times we're 2 or 3 hours from home. We get home at 3 in the morning, and I have 2 wrecks sitting in the driveway. Guys that wanted to race Saturday night, you know, and I'd get a couple hours of sleep in and then fix their car for them, you know. So it was hard to soak it all in, you know.
Yeah. Tell, you know, there's probably some folks have been fans of watching Birosh race cars win and have success. I feel like there may be some though out there that don't realize you had a stint in the NASCAR world, not as a driver, but tell our fans about that experience.
Well, what happened was it was getting harder and harder for me to compete building cars against Maynard Troyer and Pete McNell, and like I said, you had to switch over and have all your automated machines. You had to make everything. And what I was doing was building chassis only and bodies, and it was hard to make money. I was buying my parts from them guys, and so, you know, finally I decided one day, once Greg graduated from high school, I always thought I wouldn't mind giving that crew chief a shot. Yeah. So I said, I called John Bickford, which is Jeff Gordon's stepfather.
I was just going to say, that's a familiar name.
Yeah, and I used to buy parts from him. He used to have a company called MPD Products, and he made a lot of sprint car parts and stuff. Yeah. And so I called him, and I said, hey, can you get me a job down there? And he says, in a heartbeat, he says. Wow. Come on down. So
because back then, that's what you did. If you knew somebody, you made a phone call.
And I went down, and he got me a job actually as a car chief for John Andretti for his Busch team that they just started up. Wow. And and then about 2 months into it, John had another guy that was a crew chief on the car. He called me up one Sunday. I was sitting there watching a cup race at home, and he says, well, you're the crew chief now. I says, what? And so, I had no idea what the whole thing involved. And what we did, we started with almost nothing, and we built this team up in like a month, you know, and we just worked as hard as I ever worked, really. Yeah. And in getting everything ready to go race. Stevie Reeves drove it, and so anyways, I says, well, I'll try it, but I says, you know, I don't know if I'm ready for that. But we did pretty well. Wow. Stevie, we didn't win with Stevie, but we had some top 5 finishes, outside poles and stuff like that. And it was, and we were a small team, small budget, and we were trying to build it up. And then finally, we had Big A Auto Parts for a sponsor, and we just couldn't keep it. They couldn't keep going. They were having financial problems, and so the team kind of, long story short, broke up. And then I was looking around for something, and big guy, Steve Helwig, over at Mike McLaughlin's team. Of course, I grew up with Mike. Yeah. Calls me up and he says, "Hey, we need you," because Gary Cogswell, he was the crew chief over there, and he was having some health problems. And they wanted somebody. It's important in them teams. You got to have somebody that fits in. Yeah. And I knew them guys. Right. And so I just went in, and it was just like nothing happened, you know. And then we really did well. I mean, it was only, I don't know, about 2/3 of the season that I crew chief Mike, and we sat on the pole at Darlington. We won Charlotte bumper to bumper 300 in 1998, I think, and that, you know, we finished 3rd in points behind Junior and Kenseth. Wow! So tough company. Wow! And
did not know that.
And then it just got what happened. The reason I ended up, you know, moving back up here was I was crew chief Mike, and everything was fairly good. And then had some guys on the team that I wasn't really getting along with. And it was the end of the year, and I wanted to get rid of them. And but I didn't want to disrupt things too much because I was the new guy.
Sure.
So I wanted to make sure everything was going to stay good. But I looked at it like we couldn't get second in points, and we couldn't get fourth in points. We were so far ahead of fourth that we couldn't, you know, we only had 3 races left. So we were right in third place. And but the owner didn't really want to get rid of them guys right then, and there was some other stuff going on. I won't get into that. Anyways, I said, well, then I'm gonna. It was like, I don't know, it just didn't feel right to me. Yeah. And so still real good friends with Mike. In fact, I just had lunch with him the other day. And but you know, and then Todd Bodine, I was a Cup crew chief for a week.
Oh, this is going to be a story.
Yeah, so Todd Bodine was going to drive for Joe Falk. And he called me and he wanted me to be the crew chief because Todd was over in Mike's, you know, he was driving the Stanley car at the time. And so, and he was going to run this Cup car for 15 races. So I said, all right, good, I'll go. And he said, I want you to go meet with him and see if he wants to hire you. So I went, met with him, and he wanted to hire me. And so then Todd called me and told me, I think, he says, well, good news is, he says, I got a full-time ride. Bad news is I'm not going to drive for Joe. So he's going to drive for Travis Carter. Okay. And so then that was okay. I was still going to go along with it. And then me and the owner didn't really see eye to eye after about 4 days. So I called Jennifer up and I says, we're moving back. So my cousin Lee, he had moved from Indiana back out here, and he was building hot rods. Yeah. And he says, you got to come out here. You got to come back up here and build cars. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. You know, I don't want to get. He says, no, it's good. I'm telling you, you got to build hot rods. You know, and I says, all right. So I says, I'll give it a try. So here, 24 years we've been here. Wow. Right here. Wow. Been building hot rods for 24 years now.
That was going to be my next question was, you know, you had so much work and success in racing. Now what are we building? Because I know you're up to something. Yeah,
building hot rods. And I love it. I mean, it's what I know how to do. Yeah. Because I know how to make them drive good and ride good. And so, you know, and I make them look pretty good too. Yeah. I got a decent eye for the way they set and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are better, but
tell us about the truck we're sitting in front of now.
Well, this is the first one that I built for myself. I've had it about 11 years. Okay. Got about 60,000 miles on it. We drove it to Charlotte 3 times. Nice. To the Good Guys show down there, and I drive it all summer. Nice. You know, it's just I'd probably never get rid of it.
You mentioned Lee Osborne, so I gotta ask, did you have anything to do with the car that made its way through the Steve Payne shop and the Fisher shop? There was an Oz car that I've never really known a lot other than just the mystique of, that's the Oz car.
Well, I can tell you it was Chrome Molly.
Oh, okay, all right. Which, by the way, I already talked to Super Dirt Car Series director Dean Reynolds. Chromoly, you could build one today out of Chromoly if you wanted to.
If you wanted to.
Nothing in the rules say that you can't do it. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that was Oz's idea. He was helping Steve at the time, and he kind of got back into it. Yeah. And he said, I'm going to build a car. So he just built one. I mean, he's a workaholic. Yeah. He just works out. He does, you know, he's building hot rods still he's 5 years older than me, and I'm old. So
we'll edit that part out for you. Yeah. Oh man. You guys are still racing now. Greg's behind the wheel. Yep. Bob Miller shared an awesome video from 2009, I believe it was. Got that win in the Sportsman. Yeah. Most animated victory lane I think I've ever seen. The announcer, don't even know who her name is, didn't matter. He took over the interview, but I imagine that's got to be right on that list of one of those big sense of pride moments.
That was great. Yeah, you got to, you know.
And that was a Birosh car.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, that car was 15 years old then, probably. And then we put an open sportsman motor in it, went over to Thunder Mountain, Greg did, and we ran it in the modifieds over there. And he got a couple top 5 finishes. And Dale Welty come up to me one time at Thunder Mountain, and he says, "What kind of car is that?" Because it has X in the back, you know, and most of them are like this, you know.
Yeah.
He says, and I says, "It's a Birosh car." "Well, when did you build that?" I says, "About 20 years old." So it was a 20-year-old frame, and we still got it.
And I was just going to say, that car's still on the property, yeah.
It's still here.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Something that I've taken from a very, very dedicated and well-decorated announcer, Dave Moody, works for the Motor Racing Network. I love a question when he talks to folks that have done so much in the sport. I love his question he asks them. When you look, down the road, when people look back in the history books, you name it, what is it that you want people to take away from your contributions to the sport? How would you want to be remembered?
Well, I guess I just want to be remembered as somebody that was fair, treated all my customers well, and gave everybody, worked harder than I really got paid for.
Yeah.
But enjoyed every minute of it. And that's, still have tons of those relationships today. Guys that I built cars for, and like I said, it's all about the people.
Yeah.
It's the people.
A lot of very successful people either worked in, bought parts from, cars from your shop.
Yep.
So that's a lasting legacy for sure.
Yep. And I'm proud of it.
Good.
Yep.
Well, there's our one-on-one interview here on Land of Legends TV this week with Johnny Birosh. For the full-length interview, you can log on to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Land of Legends NY, or find us on YouTube at Land of Legends Raceway.